scriptures teach us, he who saves a child in time saves the world. My husband Hassan helped me save the life of a child some 16 years ago. A mortally ill child who traveled to the United States with her 21-year-old mother for life-saving surgery. The little girl celebrated her birthday with us in Minnesota, her third birthday, and is now a beautiful, healthy young woman residing in her homeland, Iran. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. Allow me to begin my few comments by acknowledging the amazing women who are our co-hosts this evening. Shahla Jun, where are you? I am always in awe of your grace and kindness. You are an enduring symbol of beauty and love, as elegant as you are smart and strong. Thank you for your generosity and your presence this evening. Most of all, thank you for your tender love for my husband. My elegant, charming, erudite, beautiful Barbara. You are an art advisor extraordinaire to some of the most discerning collectors in the world. You have published enough fabulous books to fill a small library. And you are an exceptional friend. Your attention and wisdom elevated Hassan's writings to a whole new level. My gratitude knows no bounds. It is no wonder that Hassan adores you both, and I'm not even a little bit jealous. When I was a young girl, back in an ancient land, I saw photographs and read about Ambassador Ansari, then the ambassador to the United States, credentialed by both Democratic and subsequently Republican administrations. He returned to Iran and served in the cabinet with distinction for many years. I remember asking my parents, what did he study in college? They said economics. So I decided I wanted to be like him. I went to college and got my degree in economics. Turns out it takes more than a degree to become the next Hushang Ansari. Hushang John, you may not be here with us in person, but your gracious presence is felt by all. Thank you for all the attention you paid to every detail of this evening's event. I am deeply grateful for the mutual love and respect you and Hassan share. I am grateful for every moment with you, even when you set me straight as I baffle you with my statements about politics and economics. You inspired me as a young woman, and you continue to inspire me as a, well, older woman. Your generosity, your spectacular philanthropy, your exceptional wisdom, and your boundless energy are indeed sources of inspiration and strength. You are a national treasure for these United States of America. Hassan is very lucky for the gift that you have been in his life almost all the days of his life. And talking about national treasures, my darling Allan, it is fair to say that they threw away the mold once they made you. As a singular leader, the father of venture capitalism, you have been honored and recognized far and wide by presidents, captains of industry, charities, and even granted the Légion d'honneur by the French Republic. Your vision, your energy, your joie de vivre are truly worthy of admiration and respect by all who are fortunate enough to know you. Most recently, you wrote your widely acclaimed book, No Red Lights. And you competed in the New York Marathon and went to Burning Man. This is a true story. But most importantly, of course, you married Barbara. The best part of all those things you've done. Tonight, I celebrate the presence of grace and love that is palpable in this room. I celebrate the resilience of each of our hosts and my precious husband. I celebrate the loyalty of enduring friendships. I celebrate the presence of each of you, each and every one. My grateful heart is touched beyond what I can express. Now, please join me and raise your glasses for a toast to Shahla June, Hushang John, beautiful Barbara, and amazing Allan.
Nazi just said she wrote out my comments. She doesn't really know. I've never, ever worked from a script. I never use teleprompters. I'm like Tim Waltz. I do everything spontaneously. I've played this role of introducing an author on several occasions. And I can't tell you, I've all the time read the book beforehand. I have to confess that. And I've had a lot of friends who are authors, and I know there are a lot of authors in this room. But I can tell you that I have read Hassan's book, and as my wife Barbara would attest to it, I actually could not put it down. And that says a lot. I took it with me from New York. I don't know where, we went to some foreign country, we came back, we went to East Hampton, we came back. I do have some things I do in between. But it's probably one of the best books I've read in the last several years for sure. The title is great. I really sincerely recommend it to all of you. I've lived through Hassan's 2 chapters. I didn't live through Persia, but I did live through politics in prison. I met Hassan, I guess it was in the 80s, 90s, when we all worked together on various democratic politics. And Hassan tells it all. You will, for anyone in politics, they will really find this book very exciting and recognize lots of people in it. And Persia I can't attest to, but I certainly learned an awful lot about what it was like to come from Persia, and having lived there, and things I never understood and did not know the background of how prestigious Hassan's family had been in Persia. And when Hassan went to prison, I visited several times, maybe many times, I can't remember, several or many. We corresponded regularly. And so I lived through that part of it also. And then I lived through his wonderful engagement and then marriage with Nemazee. And she spoke so eloquently before me, but I know it all came from the heart, and I know that you can understand why Hassan is so lucky to have built this new chapter in his life. And I think this, really, I've been to so many book parties. I've never seen a book party with this many people. I can tell you mine didn't have that many. And this is after a lot of people, had to go on to other things. So all I want to say is that it's great to see so many loyal friends of Hassan. Let's be honest, having gone through the transitions Hassan has gone, and to have retained so many loyal friends is a testament to who he is. And the 4 of us are very, very close friends at this stage. And I cannot tell you, if you don't read this book, if you just take it and put it in your library, you're missing a very exciting. To tell you, I said to Barbara the other day, this would make a absolutely perfect movie. Perfect movie. I mean, I would option. I said I'm going to call my son makes movies. I said I'm going to call JB and tell him to option. And then I realized the politics problem, the politics in the middle, is so accurate and has so much content in it. And you'll find he's got pictures of everybody who's been president or is president or ran for president in the last 20 or 30 years. that it would be very hard to cast Hillary and to cast Bill and cast, I don't know if Kamala, I'm not sure Kamala's in there, but Joe Biden is in there, and to understand the intimacy, Hassan, the role he played with all of these people, not some of them, but all of them, he was a very, very important part of that whole period of their achievements in politics. So I could talk a long time if you know me. So with that, I will introduce my friend Hassan Nemazee, who needs no introduction.
You know, one thing I learned in politics is you never want to speak after Bill Clinton has spoken. In this case, I had to speak after Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton had spoken. So if you'll excuse me, I'm sort of the closing act, but not as good as the first two acts. Let me begin by thanking you all for being here today. It's humbling and very gratifying, especially, as Allan said, after having gone through the ups and downs of a life that wasn't certain that all the people in this room would be here tonight. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank Shaila Ansari and Ambassador Ansari for their extraordinary generosity and hospitality in hosting this event tonight in this very special location. The Lotus Club is noted for its literary traditions, so it's humbling to be here. Barbara Guggenheim is a dear friend and an accomplished author who introduced me to my publisher, Marmont Lane. This book would not have been published without her assistance and support. Allan Patricof is a friend of 30 years. We shared numerous experiences over the years in New York, supporting various Democratic candidates, as Allan said.
We even walked the streets of Ireland.
I was about to get to that. You stole my punch. We were both chairs for Hillary Clinton in 2008. And we also walked the streets of Ames, Iowa, in a cold
14-degree weather.
14-degree weather. Followed by a reporter for the New York Observer who made absolute fun of us in a front page story that was the only thing that made Hillary laugh after we lost Iowa. He remained a steadfast friend during my years in prison, visiting me and providing constant moral support. He is a legendary investor, as you have heard. He is also a published author. He has given me extraordinary advice on how to ensure this book becomes a success. I don't think I can do half of the things that Allan has done in order to sell the number of copies that he is selling for his book. Trust me, I can't do it. Ambassador Hussein Ansari holds a special place in my heart and in my life. As you will learn when reading my book, he has been an integral part of my life for 60 years. He has been a partner, a surrogate father, a brother, a mentor, and most importantly, a friend. He has given me advice and counsel all my life. While I normally followed his advice and tried to emulate his path in life, we did have a fundamental divergence of views when it came to political parties. Hushang, as most of you know, is not only a lifelong Republican, but an integral member of the Republican Party, a close friend of both President H.W. Bush as well as George W. Bush. He counted amongst his closest friends Henry Kissinger, Jim Baker, Colin Powell, and almost every Republican politician for the past 50 years. We have had some amusing moments in our divergent political past. For instance, one night during the 2008 primary season, I co-hosted an event with President Bill Clinton at Hushang's home here in New York. On the same night, he was hosting Mayor Rudy Giuliani at his home in Houston. Strange, but true. This book might never have been published had it not been for the love and support of the love of my life, my wife, Nazim. She gave me the courage and strength to convert the manuscript that I had written in prison into the finished product that you see now. The subtitle of my book says, A Life in 3 Parts. It should read A Life in 4 Parts. The fourth is the remarkable and unexpected turn that came when Nazee entered my life in 2018. A jailhouse romance with a happy ending. You can't make this up. Thank you, Nazee, for everything. I love you dearly. I also want to thank Bobby Woods and Andrew Gollop of Marmont Lane Publishing for producing a magnificent book. Without them, the quality of this book would not have occurred. I want to also thank Richard Morris of Janklow and Nesbitt, my agent. Omid Memarian, a young Iranian-American human rights activist that I met before I went to prison, who had been imprisoned himself in the notorious Evin prison in Iran for his invaluable assistance to me in publishing this book. He introduced me to my editor, Jim Rassenberger, who's here tonight, who helped me take an unwieldy manuscript which I had written in prison without the aid of a computer, without the internet, and without any files. The finished version was the culmination of 2 years of rewriting. My gratitude to my dear friend and college classmate and author in his own right, a best-selling author, Jack McLean, who visited me on a monthly basis in prison. I just recounted to somebody earlier, I don't know if the roles had been reversed, whether I would have been as a good friend to him as he was to me. He took my manuscript from Otisville to his home and converted it into a Word document, where it sat until I returned in the spring of 2019. Larry McMichael, my attorney, who for years worked pro bono, helping me while I was in prison and attempting to influence the drafting of the legislation that ultimately became the First Step Act, which was signed into law by Donald Trump. I was literally the first person to be released from prison because of Trump's passage of that bill. Credit where credit is due. I wrote this book for my children, grandchildren, and the future generations. I hope they and you will enjoy reading about our family and legacy. My story begins in Shiraz, Iran, in the late 19th century. It transports you to India, China, America, and Iran in the 20th century. I write about my own short and extraordinarily interesting time in pre-revolutionary Iran and my eventual return to the United States, the country of my birth. You will read about my American journey from my business, civic, and political accomplishments, as well as my crime and my arrest. A wise friend advised me to view my prison term not as a punishment of time, but as a gift of time. Those words resonated with me for 8.5 years. As a result, I read 2,651 books while in prison. I wrote 2 books. I exercised daily. Hector Gonzalez is here tonight with me, who was my trainer in Otisville. Jose Morales is here tonight as well, who was a guard in Otisville prison, who was extraordinarily kind and respectful to me during the entire time that I was there. I taught fellow inmates and learned much from them in return. Most importantly, I wrote this book to address the moral and economic realities of the American criminal justice system. We incarcerate far too many people for far too long. America has less than 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prisoners. That is not a number to be proud of. Dostoevsky writes, "We judge a society by how it treats its prisoners." By this measure, we are failing as a nation. I hope that my experience in the criminal justice system will allow me to advocate for sentencing and prison reform, particularly, Stanley, you'll like this, re-entry issues facing men and women returning to society. I am sits on the board of something called the Fortune Society, which Stanley runs, which deals with reentry issues. There are so many impediments that are put in the face of returning inmates to society that are needless, that are unnecessary, and that make life much more difficult, if not impossible, for people to try to acclimatize to a new life. So I hope that I can take my experience and turn something that was a negative into a positive. With your indulgence, I will read a very short passage from Persia, Politics, and Prison. Twice in my life, I've been forced to leave a home I'd never see again, taking only what I could carry. Both times, I lost nearly everything. The first time was in the early days of the Iranian Revolution, December of 1978, when my then wife, Sheila, and I boarded an Air France flight to Paris. Carrying 2 suitcases each, we slipped out of the country with hardly a moment to spare, leaving behind a beautiful house in a small village on the outskirts of Tehran, along with friends and family, horses and dogs, and dozens of priceless family heirlooms. I was certain that we would soon return to Iran and to our home. I was wrong. The second time was in August of 2010, when I walked out of our 17-room apartment on Park Avenue in New York to surrender myself to federal custody in Texas. This time, I knew there would be no going back. Strangely, I remember more about the first departure than the second. As our plane took off from Tehran and rose over the city, I was angry, deeply disturbed by the situation on the ground below, and concerned for the friends and family we left behind. But I was also young and naive enough to believe that only good things awaited me. Furthermore, I had done nothing to bring about the events in Iran. Later, I'd come to realize that I did share a kind of collective responsibility for the revolution. But at the moment, I considered myself, like millions of Iranians, an innocent victim of history. The second departure was a calmer and more personal event. I was not angry, nor was I naive. I was resigned, numb, and despondent. I was also 60, not 29, and I was unmistakably, personally, to blame. My forced exile was of my own making. Thank you very much. Please enjoy the book. Please pray for as long as you would like. And again, thank you all for your friendship. My gratitude is boundless. Thank you very much.